Oh, it's a country music time machine, taking us back to where the grass is green, with twangs and tales from days gone by. Let's ride those old trails beneath the open sky, in our country music time machine. In our country music time machine.
Well, howdy there, everybody. Welcome back to the Country Music Time Machine. This is your old pal, Kevin. This is the Front Porch Podcast. I got my beloved front porch behind me. I'm not on my front porch. I'm just pretending to be in front of it right now because I still do work for Uncle Sam. So I can't be on the front porch quite yet, but it's coming soon. I'll be there forever, and I can't wait till that happens. But welcome in tonight. Glad to have you all along, whoever you are, wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or afternoon. Please check in. You know the rules here. We got to take our what do we do? We got to take our inventory, our roll call. Wherever you're tuned in from, please pop it in the comments section. I want to say howdy to you. I don't care if you're a new viewer, an old viewer. I've got some folks who've been on this podcast ever since we released it in the first week of January. So please chime in. Let me know what you're up to. I'm going to say howdy to you before we get to the news. But I do want to say this right now. Howdy to the folks at the Home Depot. They are our partners tonight, bringing the Front Porch Podcast to you. And I want to remind you to go to Home Depot. You can find anything for your front porch, or probably your back porch, in between your bathroom, your yard. I think the Home Depot's got all that good stuff. And one good thing they do have, and I want to tell you about, I told you about it last week and I'll remind you about it again today, is that incredible Blink Outdoor 4 camera. And as you guys know, I've got those cameras all over the place at the headquarters of the Country Music Time Machine, on the front porch, on the back porch, everywhere. Let's go to the back porch now. Let's crank up one of those Outdoor 4 cameras and see what's happening on the back porch Yep, I see what's still happening. I see that those deer are still pooping in the backyard, in the front yard. I think I counted about 12 of them there. How is that possible? Do we have less hunters now in Tennessee? Do we have people that just aren't hunting anymore? It's a lot of food, but it's all over my yard. And, if I do plan to plant flowers this fall or this spring, I might be in deep, deep trouble. Let's go over to the comments section and see who is chimed in. Of course, we've got Maria. Maria's always the first one here. Maria loves George Strait. And thank you, Maria, for telling me that, because George Strait is our special tribute tonight. We're going to be talking about the life and times of George Strait. Thank you, Maria. We've got Rita Harris. She's tuned in once again from New Jersey. J-Cat is checking in from Portlandia like he always does. See, I almost said Michael Martin Murphey. See, do you remember him, Wildfire? When I see Michael Murphy's name, I think of the singing star Michael Martin Murphy, but that's Michael Murphy. Maybe it's Michael Martin Murphy. I don't know. Maybe he's disguising himself, but he's in Newark, Ohio. We got William May over in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Joshua John, the country music historian, tuned in as always and keeping an eye on me because he has to keep me straight. Thank you, Josh. Also, we've got Ron McDaniel. He's saying he is in Montana. Montana is beautiful. Oh, man, I've never been to Montana. I've seen it on TV. We got Donata Cornell from Sanford, Florida. I think that's the first person we've had from Sanford, Florida. I was just watching a golf tournament in the Palm Beaches of Florida. Florida is a beautiful state. Let's keep on going. We've got more folks tuned in. Sven E. Howdy from Germany. New subscriber, longtime country music lover. Well, Sven, Thank you so much. Say howdy to everybody in Germany. I did do an episode last year on worldwide country music, and I featured a comment from someone saying there were no country music fans in Germany. And I got him straight. I said, yes, they are. Germany is the number 5 country to tune in to the Country Music Time Machine. Of course, U.S., we've got U.S. first, Canada, but then we got England, then we got Australia, then we got Germany. Lots of Germany fans out there. Ron McDaniel says, watch George Strait from the beginning of his career. Well, you've had some good watching, that's for sure, because George is cool. Jeff Guitarist is tuned in again from New England. Who else we have here? Yeah, we got a lot of good folks in tonight. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and crank up the news for the week and see what's going on in the news. The news. Let's take Jeff's guitars off the screen here. Let's see what's going on in the news tonight. First off, a big howdy and a salute to the Country Music Time Machine crew members of the week. Very active, commenting, viewing, and the top 4 are Heather Shaw. She's been in the top before. Also, Driver in Jax. I don't think Driver in Jax has ever been on this board before, but thank you, Driver in Jax. Corey Beaver, a regular, is always tuned in. And Anim8152. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Country Music Time Machine. I'm going to take myself off the screen because I want to make this bigger. One of the comments of the week, I uploaded a video about Jim Ed Brown. He had the big hit in 1959. It wasn't the biggest hit. The biggest hit was another one I'm going to tell you about in a second. But it was a huge hit called The Three Bells. And I was watching the comment section, and somebody says, or Rat Brat 9978 says, sappy, schmaltzy as hell. You know, I don't really know what schmaltzy means. That's one of them there Yankee words, I believe, but I know what sappy means. Well, maybe to our ears today it might sound that way, but Jim Ed Brown had a huge hit with that song, and people loved it, and he made lots and lots of money. So whatever you can say it was a big country hit. And Kevin Cousins comes in and covers me on this one. So you guys, when somebody puts a crazy comment up there, I encourage you to chime in, you know. I mean, because I'm going to do it. I know once I see it, but if you see a crazy comment, chime in. Defend your favorite country star. Because Kevin Cousins says, Three Bells, such a great story song. And I do agree with Kevin on that one. Also, some comments about the shocking moments in country music history. This video is picking up some speed on the interweb. A lot more people are viewing it. We got thousands of views on this one now. And we're talking about not all of them, but most of the shocking moments in country music history. And Will Whip F7030 says, Spade Cooley was definitely the worst, but Charlie Rich was the most disgusting jackass of all. You know, I think quite a few people, including John Denver, probably labeled him that. I don't know. But yeah, that's something else. Here is a mess we made. I uploaded the Johnny Horton #1 song, Battle of New Orleans, and I almost started the Battle of the Gulf of America, the Battle of the Gulf of Mexico, because, you know, at the end of the song, he says Gulf of Mexico. So I got a lot of comments on this. One says, to where? The Gulf of Mexico? Another comment says, lots of places have been misnamed for a long time. The Gulf is surrounded on all sides with land called America, North, South, and Central America. Not South America, a tiny bit of Central America, because that's where I'm actually at right now. And the only name that truly fits is Gulf of America. Mexico could change their name to the United States of Central America. Well, possibly. Gulf of America, another comment. And little fun fact, Mexico is in America. Yes, it is. It is in North America. But here's a fun fact for you, too, and you may have not known this. I know this because I've been to Mexico quite a few times, and I speak Spanish. So I had to put this Mexican coin on the screen. And on this Mexican coin, it says Estados Unidos Mexicanos. And in English, that means the United States of Mexicans. So, in other words, we could have, you know, we could have named it the Gulf of the United States. Would somebody not be pissed off if we named it the Gulf of the United States? I don't know, but Johnny Horton had the biggest hit of 1959 with Battle of New Orleans, and sadly, the next year he died in a car accident, and that's just sad. He was on top of the world, and he died 1 year later. Last week, we played a little game called Name That Tune. We had a couple of folks chiming in, remembering a song. They sort of know the words or what it means and everything, but they couldn't get the name or the singer. And this one was, I'm trying to find the name of a song I remember, probably from the 80s, but not sure. Can't remember who sung it, but it stuck in my head because it was talking all about the different foods were bad for you, and even the water was bad. Well, we thought about this one a long time. And of course, Joshua John, the country music historian that he is, came up with it. Bobby Bear, Food Blues. But we had yet another one. And I was guessing on the last one. This one I had no idea because I'm not very intelligent on Barbara Fairchild. But this question came, hey, Kevin, I'm looking for a song, I believe, sung by Barbara Fairchild. It has a verse called Jesus at 25 or Jesus, What Were You Like at 25? Any help in finding it may be appreciated. I think Joshua, now this is where I screw up. I should have put the title of the song on the screen, but we found the song, or Joshua found the song. It is on YouTube. It's on an album called The Light CD. I think it's called At 25. That CD came out in 91 anyway. But that song is on there. I think it's about 20 minutes into it. So just so you know that. Another thing, last week we featured the incredible Loretta Lynn, and amazing woman. And I went through a lot of facts about Loretta. And one fact that I mentioned that she was a singer of the song Stand By Your Man. And Joshua contacted me after the show last week and said, Kevin, you need to clarify that a little bit. Because we know that the person who made Stand By Your Man big was Tammy Wynette. That's one of the greatest songs in country music history. But Loretta also did a cover of that song on an album. I think Josh said it was in 1969, and it was called Stand By Your Man, the same song. Loretta covered it. So in that last episode, I may have, because I was talking too fast and not thinking straight, I may have sort of said that only Loretta sang that song. We know that. We know Tammy was the Stand By Your Man woman. Some more country music news as we get ready to get into the life of George Strait. George Strait is country cool, folks. I can't wait we start covering him because he is a cool dude, and the ladies love him, especially his pajamas. And we're going to find out about George Strait's pajamas here soon. So, ladies, if you want to know about George Strait's pajamas, stand by. We're gonna be talking about that. A guy who loves George Strait is a new fella named Zach Top. Zach Top had his first career top 10 song in country radio this past week with I Never Lie. And watch out for Zach Top, because coming up next Thursday, we're releasing round 5 of country music drinking songs. Zach Top's going to have a song on that. That's the first time I will have featured Zach Top. So I'm excited about that one. Another a story here. I'm going to put my little self on the screen here because, this one, I thought it was fake news at first. On the left is Kash Patel. On the right, the far right, I don't remember who that is. But anyway, the FBI director, the new director, is Kash Patel. And his girlfriend is a country star. I don't know if I'd call her a country star, but she's a country singer. And honestly, I think she could be. Her name is Alexis Wilkins. So if you get a chance to check out Alexis Wilkins, she's got some videos here on YouTube. I'm sure they're on Facebook as well and other places. Check her out. Not only is she beautiful and quite young, much younger than old Cash there. She could, I guess if she marries Kash Patel, Could she call herself Alexis Cash? No, no, no. That's his first name. My mind's going crazy. But check out Alexis Wilkins, and I will pray for Cash Patel. You know, Alexis Wilkins is beautiful. I did listen to her. She is country. She's 100% country, and she's got a great voice. She sings great country music. But you know, she is beautiful, and Cash is a powerful man. But I ain't going to the grocery store, to the nightclubs, hunting down 25-year-old women. I got to find a woman sort of around my age that can sort of deal with me. So good luck with that, Cash. And good luck on her country career, too, because she is good. And maybe she won't get the credit she deserves because of her politics, but she should, because she has talent. And finally, we're going to cover a little bit about Chris Stapleton. We got a viewer tonight from Germany. We may have a viewer from Australia. That's happened a few times before. But Chris Stapleton is in Australia. And all over the internet, they were talking about this week, if Chris Stapleton is going to get a shoey in Australia. And while I've been close to Australia quite a few times, I've never been to Australia, and I didn't know what the heck a shoey was. So I'm going to bring up something here that will show you what a shoey is, and we can figure out whether we think Chris Stapleton is going to get a shoey in Australia. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a shoey.
I'm not drinking out of that, mate. Would you like some?
I'd love some.
I tell you what, those Australians are mighty, mighty crazy. Drinking booze out of a shoe. I don't know if any of you have ever done that, if you've drank booze out of a shoe. You know, I don't think I'm going to ever do that. I don't even think I would drink my Coke and peanuts here out of a shoe. But I guess if Chris had too much to drink, he may be convinced or forced to drink out of a shoe. But he says, according to what was reported, he does not plan to drink out of a shoe. And that's probably a good idea, because you never know what it could be in that shoe. All right, let's get ready to bring up some George Strait stuff on the channel. Let's bring up another comment from Finn over in Germany. He says, we got a decent amount of country music fans. I've been to numerous concerts, and March, I'll have Robert John and the Rex in my home city. That's cool. That's cool. In March, I hope I'm in Tennessee. I hope I am. We'll see. Also, Ron McDaniel says, please say hi to me. Janice McDaniel. Howdy, Janice McDaniel. Thank you so much. Ron wanted me to say, or pass the word to say hi to you. That's cool. Janice. Beautiful name. All right, let's talk a little bit about George Strait. And of course, Ron is putting in there, George Strait, biggest fan. Matt Arnold said, George was an impression to me. He helped me learn how to play guitar. Thank you, George. A lot of good music to play guitar with. Janice McDaniel is in love with George Strait for over 40 years. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to get into this George Strait cultdom and the women, sort of like Elvis, really. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Julian Santagita, I agree. George does have a lot of good songs. He's a great artist. Michael Murphy says his favorite song is Love Without End. Amen. My favorite song from George is probably Cross My Heart. I think there's so many. Sven says great singer and guitar player. Jeff guitars. I guess Jeff knows about guitars. Interesting. What else we got here? William May. All my exes live in Texas. William, I don't have any exes in Texas, but I've got one in Tennessee. I think one in Florida too. So anyway, let's go to George Strait. Let's take the other ugly Kevin off the screen so you ladies can get the full view of George Strait. George Harvey Strait Sr. He was born on May 18th, 1952. As my light, I have a light blinking in the background. You can't see it because I think one of my stage lights is failing, but George was born in Poteet, Texas. Is that the strawberry capital of the world? Cool place. There's a young fella, George Strait, right there, a rancher as a young boy. Family owned a 2,000-acre ranch. That's a big ranch. When I was young, we only had a couple of 100 acres, and it was mostly tobacco and beans. So we didn't have any cattle on there. We had some pigs, though. And here's something that you may not know. George Strait didn't really start playing country music. His first music that he started playing in high school was rock and roll. The Beatles were one of his biggest influences. And when I first read that years ago, I was like, "Yeah, you got to be kidding me." But it happens that way sometimes. Some of the biggest country stars, while they had probably heard country, they may got tuned into it a little bit later in life. Thank God George did, but he started off in a band in Texas, singing a lot of probably Beatles cover tunes. But he did eventually cross over into the great world of country music, and we're so thankful that George did. His big heroes were Hank Thompson, Lefty Frizzell, Merle Haggard, George Jones, Bob Wills, Hank Williams, and Frank Sinatra. And that's not the reason why I love George, because Frank Sinatra is cool, and I love how he sings, even though I love country music more. So yes, those were his influences. But sorry, ladies, as a young fella, George eloped to Mexico with his high school sweetheart, Norma Voss, after their high school graduation in 1971. That is pretty wild for a future country superstar. And one of the greatest things about George Strait, and not many country stars can even say this, he served proudly in the military. 1971, enlisted in the U.S. Army as an infantryman. He was stationed in Hawaii in a country band called Santee. Now, Joshua John will have to look up what Santee means here, because I know there are two Santees that I'm aware of. One Santee's in California, and another Santee close to where my mom lives in South Carolina. I think there's Lake Santee there. So I don't know what it was named after, but if that ever becomes a trivia question, you will know the answer. His country band in the military was called Santee. He left Army in 1975 as with the rank of a corporal. Now, it's time to bring up a very, very, very young George Strait on the screen here. In this little video clip, George is talking about his early start in country music, especially about how he started doing it when he was in the military.
Well, I was in the service, and I just, for some reason, got it in me that I could sing. You know, I thought that I could, you know, possibly make a career out of singing, and so I went and I bought a guitar. I was in the Army at the time, and I was stationed in Hawaii. And I went and I bought a guitar, and I started learning songs, and learned enough to where I could get a band together, and did that. And the last year I was in the service, that's what I did for the Army, sing country music.
There's a $100 bill on the table. Got a nice blue jean, a honky-tonk waist. I hold it tight, and a cowboy band ready to get you. I'll text you.
Yeah, look at those ladies in that crowd. They were going nuts. They were in love with old George Strait. George went to college, Southwest Texas State University, now Texas State University in San Marcos. He graduated with a degree in agriculture, and he headed to Nashville. I headed to Nashville for the first time in 1989. He was there long before I was, and he got The door slammed in his face by every label in Nashville. And I know some of those labels probably think, we were really stupid. Why did we do that? We just turned down a country music legend. But thankfully, he was signed by MCA in 1981. And it didn't take him long, folks. Straight Country came out, held his critics as being a new traditionalist that broke the trend of pop influenced country prevalent at the time. I've said it, I'll say it many times, and I'll say it again. We're infused by pop and hip hop and everything in the country music now. But while it wasn't hip hop in the 80s, pop has always been in country music. Some may think too much, but it's always been there. It's always been a part of its history. But George started making it big. Now, I'm going to bring up another little clip here. And after release of that album, he sold a bunch of records, and he's talking about his early success.
In an era when country music often resembles pop, George Strait is clinging to the traditional sounds of his Texas heritage and turning them into today's hits.
Texas has been so good to me and for me. I still have so many friends down there, and people that I see at every concert, and they'll come out and I'll see the same people, and it's a great feeling.
You have had 3 gold albums in 12 months. That is almost unheard of these days in the music business. How did you do it?
I don't know. I'm not kidding you when I say that. It's just wonderful, isn't it?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good stuff. And if this ever becomes a trivia question, you've got to know the answer to this one. Unwound was his first hit. It went to number 6 on the chart, and that was a great song. I loved Unwound. But the verse number 1 on the chart is Full Hearted Memory. Number 1 on the chart, May of 1982. And he just made hit after hit after hit. The 1980s, he had at least 18 number 1 hits. He was the man of the 1980s, and many will say this. George Jones is a key figure in country music history because in a time of a lot of pop, he bridged that gap from the early 80s until, let's say, Randy Travis and Keith Whitley came along. He was singing great country music, and he bridged that, especially that pop-infused gap back in the time. But why did he do it? I think a lot of it has to do with, of course, he's got a great voice. Of course, he had great songwriters. He sang songs that were amazing. But as we're already hearing from the commenters on YouTube right now, another big reason is he still is. He's a handsome guy. And the ladies love George Strait. Now, I think there's a rapper called LL Cool J. They should call him LLGS. Ladies love George Strait. That'd be his rap name. But let's bring up a clip about the George Strait sex appeal.
With George Strait t-shirts selling briskly in the background, we asked some fans about the singer who supposedly can make a cowgirl's jeans twitch at 100 yards.
Well, he sings pretty songs and he's good looking too. That's what it is. His music, he's great.
How long have you been a fan?
God, ever since his first song.
You'll see when he walks out on the stage, you'll probably see about 75 to 100 or 200 girls standing right up at the front of the stage holding roses to throw to him or try to get his autograph or just get a look from him.
Welcome to the stage, MCA recording artist Mr. George Strait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Oh, man. What I like about that video clip was that announcer's phrase, a cowgirl's jeans twitch. What would that be? I don't know. That is something else. Yeah, the sex appeal of George Strait was a big factor in his superstardom. Now, in this video clip, we're going to dip back into that sex appeal and talk about what George Strait wears when he goes to bed.
This handsome singer developed a huge cult following in the Southwest early in his career, which now has blossomed to an almost feverish level among his female fans nationwide. What is it about you, George, that's so sexy?
You're going to have to tell me, Elaine, because I certainly don't know. You know, I don't look in the mirror and say, what is it about you, George?
All of your female fans are dying to know, do you sleep in pajamas or not?
No, I don't. No pajamas for this guy.
All right, ladies, no pajamas for George Strait. I know now you ladies won't be able to sleep tonight knowing that George Strait doesn't sleep in pajamas. I don't sleep in pajamas either, but I don't sleep in my birthday suit either, you know, because I just never have, you know. So I sleep with shorts and a t-shirt or just my underwear. But I ain't nearly as good looking as old George Strait. And George had a great bunch of hits in the 1980s. So many of them, it'd take you a whole day to listen just to the 80s hits. But 1992, he made a step out and did something that a lot of folks thought he would never do, but he sure as heck did. He made a movie, and he was the lead actor. The movie was called Pure Country. The movie itself was not a huge success. It didn't make a whole lot of money, but boy, that soundtrack did. And I'm going to play you a clip here. It is the original trailer from Pure Country. And what I love about this is this trailer has all mixed up some of the best hits you'll see. So let's get into Country Music Time Machine, go back to 1992 and pretend we're getting ready to see Pure Country.
Warner Brothers presents George Strait in his motion picture debut.
Where the sidewalk ends and the road begins, we said goodbye.
He had gone farther than he had ever thought, done everything he had ever wanted, and felt more alone than he could ever have imagined.
Sometimes I just want to dump the whole deal. Earl, old bud, I think I'm just going to take me a little walk.
So he set out to find the kind of love.
Did he say where he was going?
I'm pretty worried about him.
You follow the roots, you'll find it.
He had only sung about.
You know, I used to play in here years ago.
Let me be your mailman and I'll always come through. Like Pony Express in the Wild Wild West, I'll ride.
It's more fun than I've had in a long time.
Cause I'm a top flight, hold you tight, get you there by daylight, do you right overnight mail.
So you really can play that thing, huh?
I was wondering, what are you running from?
In all the world.
She opened his heart.
Haven't you ever been in love before?
Brought back his hope.
You're quite a talented man, Mr. Wyatt.
And helped him find the truth.
Just me and my guitar. You think anybody'd buy that?
In his own music.
As mine.
George Strait, Leslie Ann Warren, Isabel Glasser. Pure Country.
Folks, that is 100% country cool George Strait. And, you know, George is so cool and so country. I'm curious about this. I'm going to take an informal poll of those tuned in right now, or if you watch this later, I want you to pop in the comments. Do you think George Strait is the king of country music? It is a controversial subject. I know it is. I was thinking last year of doing an episode called The King of Country Music. And of course, when you say that phrase, you've got to think of George Strait. But is it George Strait? I'm curious about what you folks think. Pop in your comments. Is George Strait the king of country music? If you don't think he is, put another name in there. Not trying to start a fight or anything here, but I am curious because you know, there are a few country icons out there. When you think of the king of country music, you would think of Hank Williams, George Jones, those caliber of artists. But you also have to mention George Strait as well. If you were looking at just on stats, that may be the deal. But Pure Country, the movie, wasn't a big hit. And the cool thing about George is he's down to earth. He likes to make fun of himself, and he has a great sense of humor. In this little snippet of an interview, probably on CMT or TNN or something, he is asked about his acting. If he thought if the interviewer asked him, George, do you think you're a great actor? Let's tune into a little bit of this interview.
Will George Strait go down somewhere in movie history?
I doubt it. You know, if you're going to go to the movie and expect to see a De Niro or Al Pacino or Robert Redford or Clint Eastwood, I mean, don't even go.
Let's say you're the critic and you have to write a review of this movie and of your performance. What would you write?
I would write that this guy is so good in this movie. You have to go see it. That's what I'd write.
And what is
I hate reading bad reviews. I hate it.
Do you really?
Oh, I just hate it.
What are you going to do if somebody just rakes you over the coals?
Well, I'm sure they will. There's no question in my mind that that'll happen. I won't read it.
Well, the thing about it is, the only thing I didn't like about the movie wasn't his acting. I mean, he's not a Robert De Niro or any actor of that caliber. I didn't like the freaking ponytail. He had a ponytail on in the movie. George Strait would never have a ponytail, I don't think. You know, I saw that and I'm like, no, cut that ponytail off, man. Come on. But anyway, I enjoyed the movie. Was George Strait the greatest actor? No, he wasn't. But his personality came through anyway. And you fell in love with the guy and you fell in love with the character because of that. Now, I asked about 5 minutes ago if you think George Strait is the king of country music. Let's go here and pop up a few comments. J Cat says a big yes. Ron McDaniel, absolutely 100. Sven E. from Germany says one of the kings. Certainly, for me personally, there are a few before him. I'm sort of feeling Sven right now. Maria Brown says, yes, he is the king of country music. Jack Mormon says, yes. And Rita says, George is and has always been the king of country music. Some pretty good opinions there, and I do appreciate them. 1990s, the fun continued for George Strait, and he kept the good country music rolling, as you can see in the picture on the screen. Getting a little bit older, but still a handsome George. 17 number one hits in the 1990s. And then things changed. Now, I've talked about this many times. When that frickin' clock struck midnight, the last day of 1999, country music changed forever. We stopped hearing a lot of the artists like George Strait, like Alan Jackson, like George Jones. And George Strait only had 9 number one hits from 2000 to 2009. Some folks, well, he's already had plenty. He's got enough. Well, he was still making great music. It just wasn't being played in country music radio because other things were getting played that were more poppy and more flashy, and George was just George. And in some ways, while he never left country music left him in the early 1990s. Now, you know, one of my other favorite songs and one of the most powerful songs that George ever did was Murder on Music Row, especially the performance he gave on that song at the 2000 ACM Awards. And that lyric that will just rip your heart out when you hear it, especially when he and Alan are singing it. For the steel guitars no longer cry and fiddles barely play, but drums and rock and roll guitars are mixed up in your face. Old Hank wouldn't have a chance on today's radio since they committed murder down on Music Row. As far as I'm concerned, that what you see on the screen right there is one of the best country music lyrics ever. Maybe not the best, but one of the best, because it's telling a story of what was happening at the time and continues to happen till this day. But, George Strait, radio won't play him anymore, or radio won't play Randy Travis. Well, they play some of his AI stuff, or they don't play Alan Jackson anymore, but people still love George Strait. June 2024, Strait broke the record for the most fans at a U.S. concert by a single headlining act at College Station, Texas. 110,000 fans. And I can tell you, I've been on stage. I actually was on stage, was at a country music concert, at a Michael Jackson concert back in the 80s. But it did not have 110,000 fans there. It was about 70,000. It was a Gator Bowl in Florida. 110,000 fans. That tells you that folks are loving and in some ways missing real country music. We love you, George, and George is still on the road. He's still singing. And if you folks get the opportunity to ever see him in concert, do it. He's not going to be around forever, and it's a magical show. So what is the legacy of George Strait? Well, look at the stats. If you were to, there are many factors that make a country music superstar, and many factors that would have to be calculated into seeing who is the king of country music. If you were looking at pure stats on record sales and fans, George would be the king of country music. 120 million records sold worldwide, 68.5 million albums sold in the U.S., 33 platinum, multi-platinum albums, and 24 gold albums. If I have a chance to date in the future and I date someone, one of the first questions I would always ask is, do you like George Strait? If she says yes, she's got a chance. If she says no, I don't know what I'm going to do. George Strait, just an incredible, amazing legacy. Now, here's where more stats get involved. He was a hit factory. Anything that George Strait sang and did was a hit, and many of those went to number one. 60 number one hits, more than any other performer in the history of the planet. That's combining the number of songs that have topped the Billboard chart, 44, with the number that have topped the media-based chart, 16. Put that in perspective. The Beatles had 20 number one hits. George, if you just look at Billboard, 44. That is incredible. It's incredible because of his voice, his personality, his look, his great songwriters, his great musicians. That's what makes George Strait a legacy. I'm going to play you one more thing before I tune out here. George Strait did get an honor last year, and it was at the CMAs. He got the CMA Lifetime Achievement Award. Let's turn it up and see how it went.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor tonight to present the CMA Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award to true country music royalty, the king of country, George Strait.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I want to thank the CMAs for adding my name to the incredible artists on this small list of recipients carrying the name of the icon, Willie Nelson.
I tell you what, folks, I played many records on the radio in my life from some of the biggest country stars. If this earth still exists in 100 or 200 years, and it hasn't been destroyed, you will still be hearing George Strait. It may not be on the radio. It may be on little channels like this. It may be in someone's house down a dirt road somewhere, but you're going to always have George Strait because he was the soundtrack of our lives. He was the soundtrack of our love and our heartbreak too. And thank God we still have him. And like he said in that video there, he thanked his good Lord and Savior because it brought him to where he was and kept him going even after the tragedy in his life. Folks, let me turn. I'm sorry. I've got to remove George Strait's beautiful face from the screen here. It's time to go. I thank you all for tuning in to the Country Music Time Machine and the Front Porch Podcast. Don't forget to support the good folks at the Home Depot. Check out that Blink Outdoor 4 camera. They're making this edition of the Front Porch Podcast possible tonight. So for all you George Strait fans out there, thanks to the King of Country Music for being with us tonight. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. And George would agree with this. Let's all keep it country right here on the Country Music Time Machine.
Oh, it's a country music time machine, taking us back to where the grass is green, with twangs and tales from days gone by. Let's ride those old trails neath the open sky, in our country music time machine, in our country music time machine.